I got up this morning and I started my day, God's mercy was with me all of the way. His goodness stayed close by to meet all my needs. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm counting my blessings as I journey along. Good friends, a family, and a place to call home. The church where I worship, the Bible I read. My Lord is taking good care of me. When Satan comes tempting and he brings up my past, I tell him I'm forgiven and it's buried at last. The bloodshed on Calvary now speaks for me. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking, He's always taking. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm not what I was, and I'm not what I'll be. You see, I've been born again. My life has been changed, completely rearranged since the day that Christ set me free. The old man I shed, I'm living, he's dead. I'm walking this heavenly way. I have no regrets, for nothing I've left. I'll stick with the old-fashioned way. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm a hell-fighting, devil-denier who's washed in the crimson flood. I'm singing and shouting, no longer doubting, just waiting on Jesus to come. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. It's settled and decided, I'm not gonna hide it. I am not ashamed. The old King James Bible can still bring revival when the saints kneel down to pray. I believe Bible teaching and Holy Ghost preaching are the answer for this modern day. And old-timey worship, it's not gonna hurt us, we call it the old-fashioned way. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm a hell-fighting, devil-denier who's washed in the crimson flood. I'm singing and shouting, no longer doubting, just waiting on Jesus to come. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm a hell-fighting, devil-denier who's washed in in the crimson flood. I'm singing and shouting, no longer doubting, just waiting on Jesus to come. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm a born-again child of God. Here among the shadows in a lonely land, we're a band of pilgrims on the move, burdened down with sorrow, shunned on every hand. We're looking for a city built above, looking for a city where we'll never die. There the sainted millions never say goodbye. There we'll meet our Savior and our loved ones too. Come, Holy Spirit, all our hopes renewed. Here in disappointment we so sadly roam, friends no longer speak one word of love. We have found contentment, Jesus promised us a home. We're looking for a city built above, looking for a city where we'll never die. There the sainted millions never say goodbye. There we'll meet our Savior and our loved ones too. Come, Holy Spirit, all our hopes renewed. In this land of danger, we're going here and there, trusting in the blessed Savior's love. Though we may be strangers living in this world of care, we're looking for a city built above, looking for a city where we'll never die. There the sainted millions never say goodbye. There we'll meet our Savior and our loved ones too. Come, Holy Spirit, all our hopes renewed. Looking for a city where we'll never die. There the sainted millions never say goodbye. There we'll meet our Savior and our loved ones too. Come, Holy Spirit, all our hopes renewed. got up this morning and I started my day, God's mercy was with me all of the way. His goodness stayed close by to meet all my needs. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm counting my blessings as I journey along. Good friends, a family, and a place to call home. The church where I worship, the Bible I read. My Lord is taking good care of me. When Satan comes tempting and he brings up my past, I tell him I'm forgiven and it's buried at last.
All right, we're going to get started this morning. We appreciate you being in the Lord's house. Thankful for another opportunity that the Lord's given us. If you were tuned in on the live feed, our normal sound man's not here, so me and Brother Caleb are having to try to figure stuff out. We hadn't got a woman preacher. I am going to preach. It transitioned, though, by the time Mr. Net plopped down to try out my new chair. And so if you were watching, that's what it appeared when it come up. So, but anyhow. All right, we're going to get started this morning, so we appreciate you being in the Lord's house. Let's stand. Braden, is Braden in here? Braden, if you'll come. And Seth, if you'll come, we'll take up our morning offering, and then Brother Brian's going to come lead us in a congregation song. All right? All right. Brother Mark Van Witzenberg, will you take us to the Lord in prayer this morning? Ask God to help us.
Same page, 473. 473. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul.
Jesus
song in just a moment. But before we do, we're going to go over in prayer. What if somebody's got a prayer request, something you'd like to share with the church, help us pray about? Do continue to remember Brother Stacy. He's going to have surgery again on June the 18th and then again on the 19th. It's going to be a 2-day thing. And so do remember him in prayer. Continue to remember Miss Lachelle. She's going to have to go have those wisdom teeth cut out this week. And also Brother Ben's dad. Continue to remember them. Him in your prayer. The Lord will just help him. Continue to remember all of our elders, folks. It's good to have more people back with us today. It just keeps getting a little bit more back to normal. That's what I told him back there a minute ago. I said, whatever normal is going to be, I'm just ready to get to it. And so, but it's good to be here. Remember, Miss Vandy and Miss Kelsey, they're going to be traveling this week, going on a ladies' trip. Amen. Brother Brian and Brother Caleb said amen. And so, but they're going on a ladies' trip this week. And so remember them as they travel. Lord, just keep them safe and bring them back safe. Brother Evans preaching this morning at First Dutch Valley, or not First Dutch Valley. Brother Jeff Parrish preaching at First Dutch Valley. Brother Evans preaching at West Side in Oakdale. So remember him this morning as he preaches. And Brother Stacy is at Grace Baptist Church with Brother Clark Herring this morning down in Georgia. So remember him as well. All right, Brother, do you have a request?
Yes, I'm starting a new job Wednesday. I was an over-the-road trucker. I've been doing that for about 14 years, and I'm changing to a local dump truck driving job instead. And so keep that in prayer. And also, I have a friend. He has stage 4 kidney disease and heart disease, and he's on dialysis. He's doing all right, but he definitely could use some prayer.
Let's remember that. Anybody else this morning? Certainly remember our country today. Anybody else?
Remember everything that was mentioned Thursday night.
Remember that.
Gather together in prayer. Blessing to be able to see some of our representatives, sheriff's department, police officers, and such come up here and allow us to pray with them, pray for them. Remember all that. Pray with them.
Just do remember that. Had a lot of folks mention that night lost. And just we prayed a lot of things. Thank you for those that came or tuned in. But we certainly a lot to pray about. But the sheriff mentioned a special unspoken request to me that the Lord knows all about before he left. And he sent me a message later that night. And just some things going on with their family. And he sent me a message and he said, I came tonight very heavy and brokenhearted. He said, but I left feeling a whole lot better. And so I sent it to Brother Caleb and a couple others and said, well, it was worth it. If nothing else, just to help him. And so, but do remember Sheriff Potter and his family in your prayers. God knows all about that need there. So do remember that. Anybody else before we pray? All right. If not, Brother Dallas, would you take these requests to the Lord?
Most gracious Heavenly Father, so thankful for this opportunity to be in your house once again, Lord. So thankful for your many blessings. So thankful for this past week and everything that you've done for us, Lord. These requests that have been mentioned this morning, Lord, that you know the burdens on each one of our hearts, those things that we lift up to you, Lord. We ask that you be with each and every one of these, those that's lost loved ones, Lord. We just ask that you be with each and every one of their families, those that have the ones that are sick, Lord. We need to ask you to put your healing hand upon them, Lord, and to deliver them. We ask that you be with those that have burdens on their heart, Lord, those major burdens. We just ask that you lift them up and just touch them, Lord. We ask these things in our most precious holy name. Amen.
Amen. Turn to page 272 in the Red Book. 272.
Solid
we're thankful that you're here. Let me make just a couple of announcements. Put this over here if I don't. Let me make just a couple of announcements this morning. We had rescheduled our meeting with Brother Gravely. That was supposed to be back May the 21st. We had to cancel services that week, but we've rescheduled that for June the 18th. So that'll be not this coming Thursday, but the next. We won't have Wednesday night service on the 17th, and we'll just move our service to Thursday night on the 18th. Brother Gravely will be with us, and the Shields family couldn't be here that evening. We're going to schedule them back at a different time. But the Crimson River Trio, Brother Lynn Jackson, Miss Gina, and Miss Doreen will be with us. And so I'm looking forward to that. Hope that you'll come. That's Thursday night, 7 o'clock on June the 18th. Brother Lynn and Miss Linda will be with us that following Sunday on the 21st. That's Father's Day, and so they'll be with us that morning in our morning service. And then we won't have evening service that night, but they'll be with us that morning. We are not going to have Vacation Bible School, at least in the form that we usually do, and at least in the time that we normally do. And so we may look at trying to do a one-day type thing, maybe sometime in July, just depending on how things go. But as for now, we're not going to have Vacation Bible School. And so just wanted to remind you about that. Our July revival, that'll be here before you know it. It's hard to believe that it's already June the 7th, but our July revival will start on July the 26th. I believe that's a Sunday. July the 26th, Brother John Morgan will be here Sunday morning, Sunday night, and then Brother Bobby Stewart will start on Monday night for a week of revival. And so that'll be July the 26th through the end of that week. So just mark those dates down and plan to be here if you can at all right? I was going to have a Sunday school meeting this morning. I did not forget about that. I just simply am going to move that to next week. We had a lot of folks that were out this morning for different reasons, and so we will do that next Sunday morning after about 10:45 at the end of Sunday school. And so we'll do that next Sunday morning. And so I do want to talk about Sunday school and mention a couple things to you. But again, we'll do that on next Sunday. All right? Any other announcements this morning? Anything that I've forgot about that needs to be mentioned? If I know folks have come and been back over a period of time, if you haven't done your faith promise cards, those are, is there some back on that table, Brother Mark, behind you? I believe there's some. So there's faith promise cards on that back table. There were still families that hadn't come back that since then have come and things. So if you haven't filled out your faith promise card, I'm going to wait till July or so to even try to start figuring that up and doing that. It's just been a different time. But if you haven't done your faith promise cards, those are back there. You can give those in any offering that we give. Just stick them in the offering plate. Brother David will make sure I get them. Don't put your name on them, anything like that. That's not what that's about. That's just simply giving us an idea of what the missions giving will be in the next year or so. And we normally try to do that around March and to March. But like I said, things have changed on that. I sent out a text the other day about Brother Stacy's trip out west and helping him way what we could, but the doctors have canceled that trip. And he's not going to be able to go. But I still want to take up a love offering tonight, and then next Sunday morning, Sunday night, and then the following Wednesday night as we get ready for Brother Stacy. Brother Stacy's going to have a pretty extensive surgery that's going to have him down for a week or two at least. And so what we would have given to help him with his trip, I just want to give to help him because he's going to have to come off the road. He's back on the road a little bit to this week, but then starting again next week, he's going to be back off the road for at least a couple of weeks, if not more. And so so I want to just shift what we were going to give to help him with his trip and just try to help him because, again, he's going to be off the road for a few weeks recovering from that surgery. And you help us pray about that the Lord will just take care of all that and give the doctors wisdom, and they can figure out every little thing that's wrong and fix it while they're in that surgery, all right? Anybody got anything else this morning in way of announcements? All right, if not, let's get into the service. It is good to be back in the Lord's house. Somebody got a song, testimony, anything at all this morning? Maybe just want to brag on Jesus for a minute. Anybody got anything before we preach this morning?
Good to be back in church.
Amen, Brother John.
I didn't realize how much I missed when I started seeing the people. It felt kind of funny walking through the doors this morning. I got in here and seen all the faces and everybody said hi. It makes you realize I love this church and this church family.
Amen. Anybody else?
Makes you not take church for granted anymore.
Right.
You don't, I mean, obviously, in all the time I've been alive, anybody else, even the older people, I mean, we never had a time like that where you couldn't go to the church house.
Right.
closed down for so long. It really makes you start to, the times where you might have slept in and were like, I don't want to go. Now it's like, I better go. I mean, because you're not guaranteed it.
Right. Right.
Thanks, really appreciate it.
Amen. Anybody else?
Takes a toll on me spiritually. Having a church is not the same.
Right.
My spiritual life declines when I can't
Right.
be at the house of God on this place.
Amen. Amen. All right, if you have your Bibles, John chapter number 6. We left off here in our study of the book of John. In John chapter number 6, and we went through the first 15 verses a week or two ago when we preached here. The Lord took us in different directions. The last couple of services, and then visiting preachers have been here and things. But tonight or this morning, we want to look here in John chapter number 6, and I want to remind you what was going on when we left off in John chapter number 6, verse numbers 1 through 15. The Lord had fed the 5,000 with those 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And we spent some time on that Sunday. We weren't here. I preached that Sunday night on gathering up those fragments that remain. And we talked about that on that Sunday that we had to do church from home. But then, since then, the Lord's kind of took us in different direction. But we're back in John this morning. And I want to catch you up. Verses 16 through 24, there's an event that happens. Jesus has sent the disciples. The Bible said in verse number 15 that he perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king. So he departed again into a mountain himself alone. So Jesus has went off by himself, and he sent the disciples back to the ship, and they're going to go over to Capernaum. And so the Bible said in verse number 16, and when the evening was now come, his disciples went down unto the sea and entered into a ship and went over the sea towards Capernaum. Now remember, Jesus is not with them; they're alone, and it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea and drawing nigh unto the ship, and they were afraid. And he said unto them in his eye, Be not afraid. In verse number 21, then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. So they've left here and went to Capernaum. Jesus is at the Sea of Galilee here, and so they've got on the ship here at the Sea of Galilee, and they're sailing across the sea over to Capernaum. Now, you have to understand what the people have saw. Jesus realizes when he's done this miracle that they're fixing to make a big deal out of the person that he is because of the miracle that he's done, and they're going to try to make some king out of him, which he is going to be the king, but not because he does a miracle. Somebody say amen. And so they took him over to, he realized that they were going to try to come and take him and by force physically try to make him something that, not that necessarily he was not, but they were going to make him something in a way that he didn't want to be. And so he leaves and goes to the mountain. So you have to understand what these people have witnessed. They have watched Jesus go to the mountain. They have watched the disciples get into the ship and leave and go to Capernaum. And so now they understand the disciples are gone. Jesus has left. We read throughout the rest of this passage. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time. No other ships have come and left and went to Capernaum. The sea has become very tempestuous overnight. A storm has come, and Jesus has walked out on the sea to his disciples. He's got in the boat, and now they're in Capernaum. But when these people wake up the next day and they look out at the seashore and realize no ships left except the disciples' ship, and Jesus was not on it. Jesus, obviously, the storm came, no other ship left, so he must still be here somewhere. And so that's when we pick up our reading in verse number 24. Verse number 22. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, save the one whereunto his disciples were entered, that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat, but the disciples were gone away alone. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias, nigh unto the place where they did eat bread, after the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they took shipping and came to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. So they come out looking looking for him, and they can't find him anywhere. He's not where they think he should be. Can I say, friend of mine, there's going to be some times in this life through your physical, carnal eyes that Jesus is not going to be where you think he should be. There's going to be times when you're going to look for him in places that it makes sense to you that that's where he would be. It makes sense that this would happen. It makes sense that I would go there. It makes sense that I would go to this church. It makes sense that I would dress this way. It makes sense that I would do this activity, that I would go, hey, a need's not always a calling, amen. And just because it makes sense, and just because in your mind you can rationalize that this is where Jesus ought to be, that don't necessarily mean that's where he's at. That ain't really what I'm preaching about, but just want to throw that in. Amen. They come looking for him in a place where he was not, but that's where they had rationalized that he should be. And sometimes you're going to go looking for him in places where he's not, even though you think that's where he ought to be. And the best thing you could do is just go find where he's at. And so that's what they did. They went seeking for Jesus. Now I want to preach this morning out of John chapter number 6, verse number 25. And I want to begin reading here, and that's what we want to preach about. Just a simple thought. I just want to ask you a question. I don't really have a big alliterated outline. I don't really have a whole lot of points. I just want to ask you a question. And I believe that in essence it's the same question Jesus asked these folks that followed him. Here's what they said. When they found him, when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when camest thou hither? And so, you understand, these Jews are always looking for a sign. Apparently, it wasn't good enough for them that he had took a boy's lunch and fed over 5,000 people with it. That didn't satisfy him. And so they're always looking for a sign for him to... Jesus is constantly, in the eyes of these Jews, having to prove himself. And so they realize that he's not where they left him there in Tiberias. He's come over to Capernaum. There's no way he got there. He didn't. There was no ship that left, and so in their mind, they're Star Trekking. Amen. He's been beamed up. He's got over here somehow. I mean, he's appeared. He's some kind of ghost, and so they immediately, the moment that they look at him, they present the question: when'd you come over here? How'd you get here? Now, we took a ship this morning and we come, but now it was stormy last night. When I went to bed, the only ship in port that left was the disciples' ship, and you wasn't on it, so how in the world did you get here? Show me some more of them miracles. I want to know more about what hey, listen, we're not interested in who he is. We're interested in what he can do. Amen. 95% of the church is not interested in who he is, Brother David. They're only interested in what he can do. When did you get over here? Look what he says. First of all, he doesn't dignify that with a response. He just looks at them and says this. Jesus answered them and said, Verily I say unto you, you seek me not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath God the Father sealed. And then they said unto him, What shall we do, that we might work the works of God? Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that you believe on him who he hath sent. And so they begin to come to him and they begin to ask questions and what who he is and how in the world did you get over here and when did you leave? And he looks at him and he said, the only reason you're here, he said, you're not even here because I'm able to do miracles. He said, you're here because the miracle that I did satisfied your flesh. And so you've come back to see if what I can do today will satisfy your flesh some more. You're not here because of me. You're not even here because of what I'm able to do. You're here because of what I can do for you. That's the only reason you've come. That's the only reason you got in a boat this morning. You had other things you could have done. You had other things that you were able to do. But the only reason you are here is simply because you want to know what else I can do to feed your flesh. I'll ask you a question this morning. I want to say a few things about this passage of Scripture, and I'll be done. But I want to honestly ask you, this is what I'm preaching about. Why are you here? Why are you here? I mean, that's, in essence, He didn't ask them. He rhetorically just told them. He didn't see, that's the thing. I have to ask you because I don't really know. Like to think I do. But I want to say this. You wouldn't be the first person that's sitting in these pews in this building while I was a pastor that I thought I knew why you were here and found out later that I was bad wrong. You wouldn't be the first one. So why are you here? Why are you here? And I'm not preaching this to be mean. I've asked myself all weekend, Brother Michael, why are you there for? I mean, why are you there? Why are we here? Why are we here? So Jesus begins to speak to these folks that have came. Now, let's think about all the good stuff they've done now. Let's think about what's good about what they've done. Number one, the day before, they've been where Jesus was. How about that? I mean, the day before, of all the places in all the world they could be, they've spent time where Jesus was. That's good. That's good. Now, of all the places in all the world that you could be this morning, you are here where Jesus, you're in the Lord's house. Amen. Amen. That's good. That's good. I almost messed up this week. I almost got my son's doctrine all wrong on accident. We were going down the road Friday night going to Crossville to the races. And something come up about school. It was me and him and Lorelei and Daddy. We're riding down the road in the car. And something come up about school. And he's trying to tell Daddy where he goes to school at. And Lorelei says, well, I go to school. And Micah says, you don't go to school. And she said, I do so go to school. She said, I go to school where Miss Jody teaches. Talking about Sunday school. And then Micah said this. And he said, well, I go to school, and he was trying to, however he tried to explain Mount Pisgah. But when he got done, he looked at Lord, he said, Lorelei, you go to school where Jesus lives. And I said, no, she goes to school at the church. He said, yeah, Daddy, but you said that's Jesus' house. Oh, my. I almost messed up, Brother Dallas. Almost messed up. So you've come this morning. Boy, if we could just get that. If we could just get the mind. I'm going to church because that's where Jesus is. But if we just be honest, for 95% of us, that's probably really, if we want to break her down, that's probably not why we're here. That's probably not why we're here. So why are you here? I'm being serious. I want you to really just think, why are you here? So they've done good. They've been where Jesus is at the night before. Now the morning has come, and Brother Caleb, we're going so far now as it ain't just, we ain't even going back to the same place. We're going to have to get on a ship. We're going to have to pay a fare. We're going to have to go over there. I want to be where he's at again, and I'm willing to travel to go. Amen. I mean, revival meetings at a different church tonight, and I'm still going. I mean, look here. So these people must have it figured out. Day one, they're where Jesus is. Day two, they're going to find him again. They're searching for him. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, right? We've been taught our whole life how to seek him early, that you can find him, to get up early, spend time alone in your Bible and prayer, and seek the Lord while he may be found. Look for him. Jeremiah said, you'll search for him and find me when you search for him with your whole heart. I mean, we've been taught to look for him, and that's what they're doing. They're looking for him. I mean, I got a feeling. I mean, I could be wrong, but I got a feeling this is the Wednesday night crowd. I mean, this is probably the don't miss a lot of revival meetings crowd. I mean, they weren't just there. They wasn't just last night's meeting. They're going to today's meeting, and they're having to travel and pay. It's going to cost them. Can I ask you a question? When's the last time searching the Lord or seeking the Lord or serving the Lord cost you anything? It's cost him everything. When's the last time it cost you anything? Anything. Well, I mean, they're doing a lot of good, it seems like. And then they're doing real good. They found him. Oh, wonderful. They found him. Found where he was. Amen. I'm glad I found him one day.
Amen.
Glad he found. I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to run a rabbit on The fact that you can't find him, he has to find you, because that's not biblical. There's a lot of guys want to preach that. There's a lot of guys want to tell you, he ain't lost. You don't go looking for him. People don't look for him. He looks for them. Hogwash, these people went to look for him. So you can go look for him. And it's a good thing to go look for him. Jeremiah said to search for him. And then the preacher, we get up in one message and preach, we're to search for him and look for him with all our heart. And then get up the next time and say, you can't look for him. He ain't lost. A lot of us preachers sometimes act like we ain't never read our Bible. Because it sounds good. It sounds good. He wasn't the one that's lost. Man, that sounds good. That's got a good little ring to it. Amen. I the one that lost. He wasn't lost. He didn't come searching for me. I didn't go searching for him. He come looking for me. That's good songwriting, and that makes for good singing, and it makes for good sermon structure and all that, but it just ain't in the Bible. That's the only problem. It's good to go looking for him. And it's real good when you find him. And they found him. But here's the thing. You can fool me, and you can fool your husband, you can fool your wife, you can fool your kids, and you can fool everybody else in the church. But the reality of the matter is God knows why you're here. They had her loaded up, friend. They could look at him and say, listen, we was there yesterday. While the other crowd stayed home, we were there. We heard you preach. We heard you teach, and we saw the miracles you did, and we come looking for you again today. We're here. We're doing good. He looked at me and said, you're not here because of the miracle. You're not here because of the fact that I can do miracles. You're here because of what the miracle did for you. Amen. We're geared that way, right? How many of y'all thankful for doctors? Amen. I'm thankful for doctors. Amen. But if I got a heart problem, I'm going to go to the heart doctor, not the lung doctor. I'm thankful for what the lung doctor can do. Amen. But I'm thankful for the heart doctor because what he can do for me. And that's almost they weren't so much taken by who he was. They were taken by what he could do, and not even so much that he could do it, but that he could do it for them. I was really impressed by that. Well, let's see what happens. Jesus answered and said, verily, verily, I say unto you, you seek me not because you saw the miracle, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. I just love Jesus. I just love being around where Jesus is at. I just love... Why do you go to church? Because I love the Lord. Why do you go to church? Because I love to see God work and what God's doing, and I love to see folks get born again. I love it. That's good. Do me a favor. Go poll 95% of people who have left their church and ask them why they left. Anybody want the answer? Let me give you the standard answer. This don't happen all the time. 95% of the time, this is the standard independent Baptist answer for why they left the church up the road and went 2 doors down to the next church. Wasn't getting fed over there. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. So what you're trying to tell me is what church is about to you is what church can do for you. That's what you're getting at. Now, I believe in getting fed. Don't get me wrong. I believe that's why we come. We come to the Lord. But I believe 95% of the time the problem is not they're not getting fed. The problem is they don't like what's for supper. Amen. Most of the time the problem's not that you're not getting nothing to eat. The problem is you don't like what's being served. Amen. My wife makes pork loin sweet potatoes, and I love it. And she's told me all week she's going to make it, and I'm looking for it. It's going to happen. We got busy, and it ain't happened yet, but it's going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to be good. And when we sit down at the table, I'm going to eat a lot of it. You know how much Micah's going to eat of it? None. My wife is going to make pork loin and sweet potatoes and put them on the table, Brother Dallas. And I'm going to sit there and eat until I can't eat no more. And my 4-year-old is going to look and say, I'd rather have chicken nuggets. Can I say that's a problem in 95% of the church? The Lord's laying out pork loin, but we'd rather have chicken nuggets. Well, chicken nuggets makes us feel better. That's comfort food. Amen. Comfort food. McDonald's is getting rich selling $2 burgers because people like comfort food. Ain't worth eating, but it's comfort food. It's comfort food. Number one, don't really cost us much. Hello? Comfort food don't cost you a whole lot. Amen. I like burgers. And my favorite burger that I know of just right now is down in Harriman at the at the burger station, and it's got a fried egg on it. Somebody say amen. That's good. But if you're going to go eat that burger's going to cost you about $14. Just that burger. But in my humble opinion, it's worth the cost. But in 9 times out of 10, when I go to McDonald's or when I go to Harriman, I want a burger. You know where I go? McDonald's. It ain't worth eating. It don't hardly cost nothing, but that's why we go there. Because they got a dollar menu. And it's comfort food. And that's what we're shortchanging, and it'll kill you too. Did you see the document on that fellow that just ate McDonald's for like 28 or 30 days? Just about killed him. Doctor said, if you keep going, you are going to die. It'll kill you. And there's some of us who have been coming into church looking for $2 burgers, and the Lord's laid out a feast. No, I don't want that. I'd rather have the comfort food. And we're dying. We're dying because we're not really here to be. We're not really here because of who He is and what we're here because of what we can get out of it. What's for me? I ain't being fed. I ain't getting nothing out of the church. When's the last time you put anything into the church? I don't get anything out of my bank account, Brother Brendan, unless I put something in it. Amen. I mean, that's a fact. I have never walked in at Citizens Bank or Bank of Putnam County or One Bank. I have never walked in one time and Billy Rice be standing at the door and saying, here, won't cost you nothing, no problems, here's $5,000, take it and do whatever you want. Not one time. There's been a very few times when that quarter rolled around and that interest rolled around. And if your bank account's like mine, when they throw that interest in there, whatever you get like 62 cents. Hey, but every now and then. But you know what? The only reason that I've ever been given anything at that bank is because I put something in there first. The only reason. You won't gain interest on anything if you don't put nothing in it. Preacher, about ready to retire. How much money you put in retirement? Oh, you mean when you retire, they just don't start giving you stuff? No. No, the only reason Brother David's retired and the only reason Brother Brendan's retired is because they spent a lifetime giving something so they could get something back. And they gave more than what they were ever going to get back. And let me just go ahead and say a word. In the average Baptist church, that's how it's going to work if you're looking to appease the flesh. You're going to give a whole lot, but I'm not going to give a whole lot back, at least here anyway. But last time I checked, we're not looking to what we can get here. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, He said. So He said, you seek me not because you saw the miracles, because you did eat the loaves and were filled. If I leave here this morning and my flesh is satisfied, but my spirit's not done anything, this has not been a successful service. But in a lot of our Baptist churches, in a lot of our Southern Baptist churches, and just about all of our contemporary churches, that's why we're here, is to satisfy the flesh. Well, what do we satisfy, preacher? Well, number one, you satisfy your conscience. Well, I went to church today. Good for you. That's good. But you better understand, while man operates in what you did, God operates in why you did it. And I'm just going to tell you right now, on Judgment Day, there's going to be a lot of things that we did that we're going to stand in line for our little crown for, and God's going to look, and it ain't going to count. Billy Graham's wife. Anybody remember what her name was? Ruth. Billy Graham was, and I ain't putting my stamp of approval on everything Billy Graham did. Don't get me wrong. But Billy Graham's wife said they were at a meeting one time, and when he was very young, and said they were coming around, passing around the offering plate. And he said I don't remember the exact figures. I'm probably going to tell you a story there. I don't remember, but it was the gist is right. And anyway, Billy Graham intended to give $10 in the offering, and he gave a $100 bill on accident. He got back in the car and said he got ready. Him and Ruth were going down the road, and he pulled out his wallet and he said, "Oh, Ruth, I messed up." She said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I put $100 in that offering plate, and I meant to give 10." He said, "So now we've only got the 10." And he said, "But at least if we're going to give 100, at least if we're going to make a mistake, we made it in the Lord's favor, and we give him $100. And said, Ruth looked at Billy Graham and said this. She said, "Well, Billy, you only getting credit for 10. Because that's all you intended to give, and God knew that." Oh, my. What about that now? She said, "Don't get excited, Billy." She said, "Because when we get to heaven, you're only getting credit for 10. Oh, my. You believe that, preacher? I know that, because God don't operate on what you've done. God operates on why you did it. God don't operate. Hey, look, you're only getting credit for 10. But I gave 100. Yeah, but you only wanted to give 10. Let me say another thing about tithes and offerings while we're on it. You're robbing God if you're not tithing. Oh, that's Old Testament. There's a lot of things in your Old Testament. You shouldn't kill people either, and that's in the Old Testament too. We can't just pick out what we want to live by and what we don't. Well, that old law, all this, eating that. No. The law was fulfilled. There's things in that Old Testament law that when Jesus died on Calvary, God changed the way we did things. But the heart of God and the mind of God and the character of God has not changed. And if it was wrong to kill people in Exodus 20, it's wrong to kill people today. So if it was right to give in Malachi, then it's right to give today. So I believe, and I know, I have been berated by that. You ought to quit preaching that Old Testament doctrine of tithing. All these guys getting on Facebook when all the checks come out, you know. And old guy got on there and he goes, "I'm about tired of seeing these preachers tell these folks they need to tithe off these." Everybody called them Trump checks. I don't know why. Trump didn't have anything to do with it, I don't guess, but we called them Trump checks. I called them Trump checks. But he said, "I don't know why all these preachers getting on here begging people to tithe off them Trump checks." Well, you'd beg them not to drink. You'd beg them not to watch pornography. You'd beg them not to steal. You'd get up in the pulpit and tell them it was wrong if they stole from me. So listen, it's wrong if you steal from God. But I don't want to talk about the fact that it's wrong that you're not tithing. I want to talk to you people that are tithing for a minute. Well, preacher, I've been given my 10%. That's good. I'm glad. But what about on the Ruth Graham doctrine of giving? How are you feeling about it now? If the only reason you're tithing is because you're scared to death, well, if I don't tithe, God's going to break me. God will take it out of there one way or the other. Can I say another word? And I've heard them stories. And I don't necessarily think they're wrong. And I think God does different things to help different people. But I've heard preachers tell stories of, well, I got kind of broke and things and decided I couldn't afford to tithe, and so my tithes would have been $37.22, and a part went out on my car and it was down to the penny. And God, I've heard that story, and I'm not necessarily saying that ain't right. But let me say another word. If you decide today that you ain't going to tithe from now till Jesus comes, and God don't ever do nothing to take money out of your bank account, don't think you've got away with it. Again, let me remind you, God does not operate in the carnal, physical realm. God operates in the spiritual realm. So we've had enough Baptist preachers get up and tell stories like that Baptists think if they don't give their tithes and offerings and their car don't break down this week, oh, it must be all right. I must be ahead a little bit. I must give more than what I thought I should. Let me remind you, friend, God operates on the heart. I've watched God take care of this church whether you gave or not. And I'm convinced that if you leave tomorrow, I'm convinced that if the highest tithing family in this church left tomorrow, that God would still take care of us. Every bill would get paid. I'm amazed. I've stood back amazed at what God's done. There's been times that Miss Heather and I, at the first of the month, have sat at the computer, looked at that little screen, and both of us wanted to cry thinking about it. One morning she looked and she said, "Preacher, we got $46. I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." But we ain't never been late on a bill unless we just forgot to pay it. We ain't never been late on a bill. They ain't never shut the lights off. God's just been faithful. Shut the water off one time, but that's because we forgot to send the payment. But it wasn't here. It was at the prophet's chamber or the parsonage. But besides that, I mean, God's just been faithful. God's provided. We've paid every bill. During the middle of a pandemic, we sent our missionaries 2 times support. I'm convinced that God can take care of this church with or without you. I'm convinced of that. But I'm also convinced that if you're not tithing and you're not giving, and I believe it's 10%. And don't even say the word offering until you give more than that. But if you're giving 10%, then you're tithing, and that's right. But if you're giving 10%, and when Brother Seth or Brother Braden walk around, you kind of do like this number right here. And Braden has to stand there and look at you, that poor pitiful grin that he does when I need him to take up a love offering. If that's the way you're doing it, it's still right to give it, don't get me wrong. But don't think that you're getting a whole lot of credit for it. God sees the heart. And we do have a crowd of Christians that the only reason they're tithing is because some preacher told them that you can't outgive God. And so they think putting $100 in the offering plate means $1,000 in their bank account. And that's the way they operate. That's the only reason they're giving. That's what he told this crowd. He said, the only reason you're here, you ain't even here because of the miracle. You're here because of what the miracle was. You ain't excited that you ain't excited that I gave sight to some blind man that's not in your family, don't have anything to do with you. You're not excited about the fact that Lazarus walks, or that Lazarus is living because Lazarus, you're excited about the fact that on that day you were hungry and when I had food, and that's the only thing, and you've just come back today to see what I can do for you. That's all you're here for. That's all you're here for. Church has been relegated to nothing more in 2020 than a spectator sport that we've come to sit down in pews and see how entertained we can be and see how much we can get out of it. And if it don't do for us and it don't satisfy our flesh and we're not happy with what's for supper, then we'll come back and try it one more time. But if that's all there is to eat, then I'm just going to go somewhere else. The worst supper my wife's ever made would have still sustained us for that evening if we'd have ate it. That's why you're here, is to be sustained. That's why you're here, is to get through another week. That's why we're here. And listen, God, and you're not here because of what you can get. You're here because of who He is. He said, because you did eat the loaves and were filled. He said, labor not for the meat which perisheth, but that meat which endureth unto everlasting life. So the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him hath God the Father sealed. Why are you here? Why are you here? I mean, what is church to you? For some folks, it's a get out of jail free card. What do you mean by that, preacher? Maybe some sin, some struggle, something in your life. Maybe something that you're doing and you think, if they ever were to catch me, or if somebody was to say, wouldn't nobody believe that? No. Aunt Brother Dallas, he goes to church. He's a Sunday school teacher. Oh, no. Not Micah Bonham, he's the preacher's kid. He goes to church. And that's what it's relegated to most of us. That's why we're here. It's because we need the world to think that we're who we say we are. The reason we're here is because we need the world to think that we love Jesus. But really we don't love Jesus. We love what we can get out of the church. And if we just be honest, let me just say another word right here while we're on that. If that's your mindset, that's probably why you're not enjoying church. I don't know. Just don't get nothing up there at Lighthouse. I don't get nothing out of his preaching. I don't get nothing out of that preacher he has and comes and visits. I don't get that's why. Because that's what you're here for. You're here for what you can get out, and you want. Hey, listen, you're here for when the table's spread to go get the chocolate cake. I mean, that's why you're here. That's why you've come. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm just as guilty sometimes as you are. Can I ask you a question? I mean, I'm being real serious now. Being real serious. In 2.5 months, what did you miss about church? I mean, what did you miss about it? It's okay to miss people. Don't get me wrong. I missed you. And that first Sunday night or whatever it was, and we come in here and we started singing, and for the first time there was more than 2 people here. And then people start. I mean, man, it was good. Don't get me wrong. I love Brother Caleb and Brother Kinley and Brother Dallas and Brother Stacy. But I kind of got tired of just seeing them 4 every week. And I know they got tired of just seeing me. And I missed people. Don't get me wrong. I missed people. But if your salvation and your spirituality is based on other people, you ain't here for the right reason.
That's right.
I just can't make it without church. I don't want Brother Brian to think I'm in any way going against what him and Brother John have said this morning. I understand. And there is places that there's a reason why God told us to assemble. But if having to look at Brother Brendan every Sunday or having to see Brother Dallas every Sunday is what gets you in your personal devotion and Bible study and prayer life, then you ain't got a whole lot. So what did you miss the last 2.5 months? God was still just as much God as He's ever been. I'm afraid for some of us, those 2.5 months was an excuse to maybe show a little bit. I've seen some real carnal sides of people in the last 2.5 months, of church people. And I don't know, and I'm not trying to fuss at nobody, but I think maybe it was a lot easier to live that way, and then when something was said, well, I just ain't been able to be in church. Okay. I think what we've been reminded of our shut-ins, elderly folks, some of our missionaries, this is their life. It's what they do every week. And we've acted like, in the last 2.5 months, that the church has just been under some kind of grave persecution. Don't let me wrong. Our freedoms are being challenged and taken away from us. Absolutely. We've had pastors been told that they can't go in their buildings. But even at that, we ain't really suffering great persecution or anything. But to hear us 2020 spoiled Americans talk, I mean, it's just been the end of the world. So my question is if the last 2.5 months has caused you to get real far from God and do things that you wouldn't normally do and act ways you wouldn't normally act and say things you wouldn't normally say, and you want to put that under the umbrella of, well, it's just because I ain't been able to be at church. Well, what here causes you not to do those things then? I'll tell you what causes you not to do those things. Accountability to another person. And that's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but that ain't going to hold water in heaven. And God's there 24/7, 365. You're not hiding anything from Him. He knows who you are when the mask comes on. He knows who you are when the mask goes off. Amen. I wouldn't have dared post it because somebody got their feelings hurt, but one preacher was brave enough to do it. He said, I don't know what all these Christians are so tore up about. He said, we've been wearing masks to church for years. And I thought, man, he's not wrong. Wouldn't have said it probably, but he's not wrong. So what are you doing here? Let me ask you this. and then we'll be done. But maybe if I just put it this way, I believe I've said enough. You got the gist of what I'm trying to ask you. But if I just put it this way, if you're not the person that you would have me and everybody else sitting, don't look to the left and don't look to the right, because I got a feeling we all need to look at home for a minute. I'm talking about, look on your front porch right now. This ain't time to look on your husband's front porch or your wife's front porch, your kids' front porch, or Brother Dowse's front porch, or mine. Look at yours for a minute. If you are not the person that you would have the other 35 people in here this morning to believe that you are, when you walk out that door, then can I ask you a serious question? Why are you here? Why? What are you trying to prove? I mean, y'all got friends, and I'm asking, and there ain't nothing wrong with this. I seriously want you to raise your hand, because how many of y'all got friends this morning that are good friends that don't go to church? You say, preacher, they don't go to, just raise your hand up there where I can see it. You got good friends that don't go to church. Okay. They're going to love you if you leave. Obviously, most of us, except for you 4 super spiritual people, don't have a problem. So we're still going to be friends. We're still going to love you. Who are you trying to impress? Just go ahead and go. Why are you here? Well, if I don't present a certain way, they won't be my friend anymore. Hogwash. They will too. There ain't nobody in here that's just making the Super Spiritual Hall of Fame, I promise. So you're good. Go ahead. Matter of fact, when you leave, you'll probably take 4 or 5 with you that's been looking for an excuse to go. Preacher, you're kind of being rough and mean this morning. I think I'm being honest. I'm going to love you if you go. I'll still talk to you. But listen, you ain't doing me or nobody else any good sitting here just putting on some show. You know what that's going to end up being? That's going to end up destroying the life of some teenager who looks up to you and cares about you. That's going to end up destroying the life of... I've watched kids' lives be destroyed, Brother Dallas, because some man that they put on a pedestal lived a life out there that was different than the life in here. And one day, your sin will find you out. God's not in the business of trying to expose you. God's not in the business of trying to put you on display. God's not in the business of just trying to make something, some mockery out of you. But let me just say this. Your sin given time will make a mockery of itself. Your sin given time will expose itself. God won't have to. You'll do it on your own. And you know who's going to say it ain't going to be you. You've always been that. Who's going to suffer is them. One of the most convicting conversations I've ever had at this church, Brother John. Tabitha looked at me one day. It's been a long time ago. What is Kinley, 19? So he was 12 years old, 11 years old when I come here. And I've watched him grow up. He's a good kid. Tabitha, something had happened one day, and he had done something and mimicked what I would have done. I don't even remember what it was. So you know it wasn't a good idea, though. But I'll never forget when Miss Tabitha looked at me eyeball to eyeball. And she said, if you ever mess up, it'll kill him. Brother John, there's been times when you ain't been around, nobody's seen, it's just been me being who I really am. And Brother Mark, the Holy Ghost has got a hold of me around the shirt collar and said, if you mess up, it'll kill that boy. What are you doing here? Because if you're just going to mess up in a year or two and the true light's going to be shown on who you really are and it's going to destroy these babies, I wish you'd just go on. Let them find a new hero and just go on somewhere. What are you here for? Don't get mad at me. I ain't read your mail. This was in John chapter number 6, and that's just where we are. Been preaching through this since January the 1st, and this is just where we are. So don't get mad at me. It's just where we end up in the text today. If that's why you're here, what are you doing here? Are you here to serve you, or are you here to serve Him? Jesus said, I didn't come to be ministered to, I came to minister. Not one time, Brother Caleb, did you find Jesus saying, well, I'm going to quit because I just ain't getting nothing out of this. He didn't come to get anything out of it. He come to put everything into it. That's why He came. Miss Becky, can you play I Decided to Follow Jesus? Why are you here? Are you here so your buddies at work can drive down the road and see your car sitting in the parking lot? And so Monday morning when you walk in with that mask there too, they'll believe it again? I've heard this. I'd have got out of church a long time ago if it wasn't for my kids. I mean, that's a good reason to stay. Don't get me wrong. But look, Mom, they need you to be a godly mom, not just in here. They need you to be a godly mom out there. And if you're going to come in here and be godly for 3 hours, and then go out there and for the rest of the week, the other 21 today and the 24, the other 6, if you're going to live like hell out there, then it don't really matter what you're doing in here because they ain't never going to believe it. Eventually they're going to be smart enough to pull the mask off too. There ain't nobody sitting in this room knows me any better than her. Nobody besides me. Nobody. And I can fake it in front of you, and I can leave here and you won't think nothing's wrong. That I'm just everything I'd like you to think I am. But she knows. She knows. Maybe something go on at home this week. I've said something, done something, and I'll say something in the message, run across it, and probably said it because it did convict me, and that's why I said to you. And we'll get in the car, and she said, how about that? We do it to each other. And then I get in the car, hey, did you listen to the preaching today? That happens. Why? Because she knows me, and I knows her. It's hard to put the mask on in front of her, but I promise you this, and it goes both ways. I promise you there's been a time or two she's put the mask on in front of me, and even I didn't know. And I promise you there's been a time or two I put the mask on in front of her. Even she, I can be a real good master of disguise every now and then, Brother Dallas. But I promise you this, Mary, Emma, Noah, Bree, Braden, Kaylin, Seth, Anna, Katie, Josh, Andy, Micah, Lorelai. You better learn now as babies. You ain't never going to put it on and convince God. He knows why you're here. So is this thing about Him, or is it about you? Because when they went and searched for Him, Brother Michael. They paid to go see Him. When they got there, He said, you ain't here because of me. You're here because of you. And if you live this life for yourself, that's what you're going to reap, is to yourself. Brother Caleb talked about them crowns the other night. And you're going to stand before God one day, and the only thing you're going to have, you may be saved, and that's wonderful, but the only thing you'll have to give back to Him is what He gave to you. What a shame that would be. That crown of life you got has nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything to get it, nothing to earn it, nothing. I mean, He did everything. He gave it to you. What a shame it would be, Brother Brian, if the only thing I had to offer to Him was just that one thing He gave to me. Why are you here? Why are you here? Is this a social gathering or is this church? You here to see your friends? Are you here to see you? I mean, I love people too. And I'm like Brother John, the day I walked in and there was people here, I mean, just something come over me. I love you. And if you're saved, you know you've passed from death unto life because you love the brethren. Go home and say, preacher said, let's just stay home from now on. Ain't about other people anyway. That ain't what I said. But you can love the church. You can love me. You can love Brother Dallas. You can love church members. You can love the youth group. You can love Brother Caleb. And you can still not love God. And that's what it's about. Why are you here? Are you here because of who He is? Or are you just here because of what He can do for you? How many of you ever heard this testimony? I'm done. The Lord never done anything for me but saved me, that'd be enough. And I just have to praise Him from now through eternity. How many of y'all heard that? Don't raise your hand. How many of y'all heard that testimony in church? That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. It's right, but it's a lie coming from me and you. We won't praise Him now. And He's done that and far more. Well, why won't we praise Him then? Because if we just be honest, we're not here for Him. We're here for us. Why are you here? Why are you here? Let's stand. Heads are bowed, eyes are closed. Lord, we love You. Help us now. It's invitation time. In Jesus' name. Heads are bowed, eyes are closed. Nobody's looking around. Surely there's some that need to come this morning while we sing just a verse. I've decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Miss Becky's going to play for a second. Every head's still bowed, every eye's still closed. Let me help you right here for just a second. Because this is just exactly what we're preaching about this morning. Here's what's happened with somebody. The Lord, the Holy Ghost, is living inside you, that the Lord sent to help guide and direct you and lead you, has stopped by your heart at the door this morning, knocked on the door and said, hey, we need to go pray. And this is the first thing that the devil told you, and the first thing that you thought, well, if I go up there, everybody will think this, and everybody decide this, and if I go up there, they'll think about, and what will they think about me? That's what I'm preaching about this morning. We got to quit making about what they think about us. It's what they think about Him. Amen. It's what they think about Him. It's not about me. It's about Him. This whole theme of this year, the Lord's put on our heart, is to make much of the Lord Jesus Christ. If the Holy Ghost has touched your heart this morning and said you are to go pray, you shouldn't argue. You shouldn't try to figure out what you need to pray about. You should just, hey, listen, tears are language God understands. If you need to come up here and just cry for a minute, preacher, I don't know what to say. God knows what you mean. God knows what you're thinking. God knows what. Maybe He just wants you to come. Maybe that's the whole idea. He don't need you to say nothing. He just wants you to actually do what He says for a change. Make it about Him, not about you. We're going to sing one more verse. Every head's bowed, every eye's closed. Nobody's looking around. This is just you and God. Why don't you come? Make it about Him. I have decided to follow
still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. All right, I appreciate your attention this morning. Appreciate you being in the Lord's house, and hope you'll come back this evening at 5 o'clock. And thank you for being here today. All right, we're going to be dismissed with a word of prayer. Anybody got anything at all on your heart this morning before we dismiss? All right, if not, thank you for being here. Hope again that you'll come back tonight at 5 o'clock. Brother Michael Koski, would you dismiss us in a word of prayer this morning?
So, Lord, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for coming to your house and worshiping this morning. Lord, I pray for the priest.
Well, I got up this morning and I started my day. God's mercy was with me all of the way. His goodness stayed close by to meet all my needs. My Lord has taken good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm counting my blessings as I journey along. Good friends, a family, and a place to call home. The church where I worship, the Bible I read. My Lord is taking good care of me. When Satan comes tempting and he brings up my past, I tell him I'm forgiven and it's buried at last. The blood shed on Calvary now speaks for me. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm never forsaken, I'm never alone. One day I'm a-moving to my brand new home. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm blessed beyond measure, just look close, you'll see. My Lord is taking, He's always taking. My Lord is taking good care of me. I'm not what I was, and I'm not what I'll be. You see, I've been born again. My life has been changed, completely rearranged since the day that Christ set me free. The old man I shed, I'm living, he's dead. I'm walking this heavenly way. I have no regrets, for nothing I've left. I'll stick with the old-fashioned way. I'm an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, born-again child of God. I'm a hell-fighting, devil-denier who's washed in the crimson flood. I'm singing and shouting, no longer dial.